So the recent shooting death of a Rio Rancho police officer is now sparking action from community members. They're asking lawmakers for change in the justice system. Rosa Romero has gathered nearly 2,000 signatures at last check on a petition asking lawmakers to crack down on repeat offenders. This after Officer Greg Nigel Benner was gunned down during a traffic stop last Monday. Police say by career criminal Andrew Romero. Romero could have been behind bars, but a plea deal and a judge's decision meant he was out on the streets.
I'm asking the judges and DAs to be held accountable, and we need to stop letting people go who create repeated offenses.
So someone claiming to be Officer Benner's mother also signed that petition saying, quote, "If the laws had already been changed, my lovely son would still be with us." Meanwhile, a benefit car show in Rio Rancho drew in hundreds this weekend in honor of Officer Benner. The event was put on by a former officer who now works to restore classic cars. No word on how much money was raised at the event. If you want to help Officer Benner's family, there is a fund set up at Wells Fargo Bank where anyone can donate. For information on this, download our KRQE News app. We turn now to this morning. The flooding in Texas is being deemed the worst natural disaster in the U.S. so far this year. Several New Mexicans are on the ground right now helping out. The Red Cross of New Mexico has sent volunteers and equipment out there. A surgical tech will make sure volunteers are staying healthy by managing their diet and water intake, and more severe weather is expected to hit that area soon. At least 25 people have died in storms just in Texas since Memorial Day weekend. Nearly a dozen people are still missing this morning. And rescuers in Texas are taken to the skies to use technology in hopes of finding those missing. The group from Corpus Christi says the drones help them look for bodies in places too dangerous for the average volunteer. Their effort is laying the groundwork for search and rescue missions all across the country. They're also collecting data and studying how these missions could or should be done in the future. And the NTSB is looking into what caused an unmanned Google drone to crash in New Mexico. The plane is a prototype of a giant robotic aircraft that would someday beam internet into remote areas here. The NTSB told Bloomberg News the Solera 50 took off from a private airstrip just east of Albuquerque on May 1st and then crashed near Moriarty. Luckily, no one was hurt in this. The FAA gave Google special permission to fly its unmanned planes built in Moriarty over central New Mexico. We turn now to this. With temperatures set to reach the 90s these next few days, it's going to have a lot of us looking for some relief. Luckily, most of the city's pools will be open this week. News 13's Catherine Mazzone spoke to pool experts for a few reminders when it comes to taking your kids for a swim. She's live right now in Albuquerque. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. You know, with 400 lifeguards on the city's payroll, they still say it's important to keep your eyes on your kiddos when you hit the pool. They say lifeguards are trained to handle the emergencies, but you know your kids best, meaning you should be the first one to figure out whether or not they're in danger. Brandon Gibson is the division manager for the City of Albuquerque Aquatics. He says in addition to supervising your kids, he suggests using the buddy system and setting boundaries if you have multiple children with different abilities.
If you have kids of different age levels and skill levels, set boundaries for them when you come to the pool. I have a 4-year-old, I want to let him get, past the 3 feet. And my 7-year-old, he could swim okay, I let him get out to the middle. And my 12-year-old, he can swim laps, so he can go off the diving boards and do whatever he wants.
Now, Gibson says while flotation devices like water wings are a good backup, they shouldn't be relied upon. And don't forget the sunscreen, he says. Here in New Mexico, we're at a higher elevation, obviously, so the sun can be brutal. In fact, all lifeguards employed by the city are required to apply sunscreen. Back to you.
All right, Catherine, some great advice there. Now, most of the city's pools are already open. The Montgomery Pool opens today with some new renovations. The Wilson Pool, however, will be out of commission for a while for some unexpected maintenance there. We turn out to this. Singer Enrique Iglesias is recovering this morning after an unusual mishap during his concert this weekend. The singer sliced some of his fingers when he tried to grab a drone on stage. This photo right there, you can see the singer moments before it happened during the concert in Tijuana, Mexico on Saturday. So crew members helped bandage the 40-year-old's fingers backstage. He then went back right out and continued playing for about 30 more minutes. Iglesias eventually flew to Los Angeles, where he was treated by a specialist. Looks like Brian Williams could be returning to television. CNN reports executives at the network are looking for a way to keep him employed. Negotiations between Williams and NBC have reportedly not wrapped up just yet. Williams is still off the air after being suspended for 6 months back in February amid an internal investigation into storytelling exaggerations. Now, he did give an on-air apology after several soldiers came forward to contradict his account of an Iraq War mission that was in 2003. The parents of the famous Duggar family are now speaking out, saying they will answer questions about one of their children's molestation scandal in an interview on Fox News this week. Their oldest, Josh Duggar, is accused of molesting several girls, including family members, when he was only 14. His parents, Jim, Bob, and Michelle, say they hope the interview will shed some light on the pain they went through as a family 12 years ago. It will take place at the family's house in Arkansas. The Duggar children will not be part of this interview, though. The family show, 19 Kids and Counting, has been taken off TLC's schedule and even dropped by the streaming site Hulu. So you might want to leave the house a little bit earlier this morning. Happening right now, construction is already underway on one of the busiest stretches of I-40 this morning. That's where we join News 13's Catherine Mazzone live near Coors and I-40. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Crystal. Now, crews will be out here 24/7 until they get this construction project finished at the end of October. Take a look behind me. Now, traffic looks a little bit heavier than it really is. That's because traffic is down to only 2 lanes in either direction. Now, they're working to improve pavement here, repairing cracks and potholes between the Rio Grande Bridge and the Coors interchange. Even though it was redone 8 years ago, the Department of Transportation says cracks came sooner than expected. Part of that's because of a huge volume of traffic. DOT officials say traffic will be down to 2 lanes in each direction, as I mentioned earlier. They say this is a heavily traveled road, and so they want to get it done. Again, this road work will be Monday through Sunday at all hours. Now, officials suggest you give yourself a little bit of extra time when you leave for work this morning and while this construction is underway. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Catherine. Now, there will be extra signage around the construction area to give you a heads up on what you can expect out there. So, a busy stretch of Central is back open this morning. It was reduced to 1 lane after a driver hit a power pole at 52nd Street. Crews were tasked with cleaning it all up before fully reopening it around 4:30 this morning. The crash also cut off power to dozens of residents there. Video just into our newsroom shows PNM out until the early morning hours, restoring power to residents in that area. This morning, officers continue to stand watch over the body of Officer Greg Benner. That's until his funeral on Thursday. Benner was gunned down last Monday in Rio Rancho by career criminal Andrew Romero after a traffic stop and a short pursuit. Happening today, the girlfriend of the man accused of gunning down Benner is expected to face a judge this morning.
Why didn't you tell the officer?
And that was Tabitha Littles. She's charged with accessory to the murder of the officer. According to a criminal complaint, Andrew Romero told Tabitha he was going to shoot the officer who pulled him over. She did not say anything to Officer Benner, telling police she didn't because she was high. Now she's charged with being an accessory to his murder. Romero shot Littles in the foot first. She spent 3 days in the hospital. State police brought her to Sandoval County Jail on Friday. We turn now to this. A suspect behind another police chase is expected to appear in court today. Police say Stephen Goudelet rammed into 2 police cruisers Friday night. Detectives say it all started when the 23-year-old and another man were fighting. When police moved in to arrest him, they say Goudelet jumped into a car, then took off. He hit one parked car, then spun out of control and hit a police car head-on. They chased him to San Mateo and Indian School, where he hit another police car before finally police were able to catch him. This morning, one Albuquerque family is mourning the death of another family member after shots rang out in a southeast Albuquerque neighborhood.
I heard about 10 to 15 gunshots, and they were in succession. They didn't stop, and that was about it. And I called 911 right away.
So police say the man was found slumped over in the driver's seat of an SUV near San Mateo and Zuni yesterday. Police say a witness told officers whoever pulled the trigger ran to a nearby home. Officers could not find them. The family tells News 13 the victim is actually the cousin of another shooting victim, 17-year-old Jaquise Lewis, who was killed back in March at the Los Altos skate park. Police are following leads but don't have any suspects at this time. As for what may have led up to that shooting, that's still not clear this morning. And News 13 is following this story closely. As new information comes in, you can find the latest details on this story on air and, of course, on our KRQE News app. A dead man's phone led deputies to a suspected child pornographer in Farmington. San Juan County deputies arrested 28-year-old Tristalyn Valencia on felony charges earlier this week. According to the Daily Times, detectives investigating a crash found child porn on a cell phone at the scene. They traced it back to Valencia. Valencia is accused of using a young relative to create the child pornography, then distribute it. On to this now. State officials are sorting through how many politicians may have broken campaign finance laws last year. The Daily Times reports Secretary of State Diana Duran's office is still referring possible violations to AG Hector Balderas. The newspaper found Duran's office only collected 4% of roughly 2,000 fines imposed on candidates who broke the rules. Duran waived 1/3 of them. Today, Senate lawmakers will take up a House-approved bill designed to reform part of the government's controversial surveillance program. Here's a live look out of Washington, D.C. this morning. The Senate revisions renew the 3 expiring Patriot Act provisions and would overhaul the controversial bulk telephone collection program, keeping the telephone data in the hands of the phone companies. The bill would require the government to seek specific warrants for access to that data. The Senate reconvenes at noon today. We turn now to this. A funeral for the Washington, D.C. family tortured and killed in their own home will be held today. Savas Savapoulos, his wife Amy, their 10-year-old son, and their housekeeper were found only after smoke started billowing from their house. A private wake was held at the family's home yesterday. Police have charged 34-year-old Darren Wint with their murders. This morning, Secretary of State John Kerry is expected to be flown back to Boston today for further treatment after breaking his leg during a bike ride in the French Alps this weekend. In the meantime, Kerry has been forced to scrap a 4-nation trip. The injury could also leave him on the sidelines as a critical June 30th deadline approaches on nuclear talks with Iran. And finally, take a look at this video here. Newly released dashcam video of an officer coming face to face with wicked weather. The dashcam video captures the Mississippi officer driving when a bolt of lightning strikes a bridge just right in front of him. Terrifying right there, right? This amazing sight is pretty rare, actually, to catch lightning at such a close range. The officer says he went back to the spot later and he found a chunk of charred concrete.